Today's guest is PicKell. JD is a college football analyst for On3 and was formerly a student athlete at Cornell University. After finishing his career as a grad transfer at Baylor, JD dove headfirst into a career in sports media. Early on in his career and still to this day, JD has been consistent, persistent, and wildly detached from the outcomes of his work. This has allowed him to be super successful in an industry that's hyper-competitive and hard to break into. In this episode, we're discussing JD's journey to Cornell from Southern California. That's a big shift. How high school athletes and transfers should be navigating college ball. And lastly, we dive deeper into JD's mindset that has separated him throughout his career. This is going to be a good one, so I hope you enjoy it. All right, JD, welcome to Ivy Athlete. Got a new name going on now.
I love it. That's a good brand right there, man. I feel like a lot of people, especially like out of high school, I would have loved to have a resource like this. So you being on the cutting edge of this, leading the charge for this dude, we were talking before we got rolling here, going to help a lot of people. So I'm honored to be part of it, man. This is cool.
Let's go. I'm excited. Well, let's do this. Let's say I've never heard your name before. I see JD on this episode. I'm like, who's this guy? And 30 to 40 seconds, give me like the rundown of why you think a high school athlete, Ivy League athlete, or parent should listen to this episode today.
Yeah, well, what a banger of a question to start out with. I think the biggest piece of my story relative to going Ivy that would be helpful is like I was not the kid that had that first test score in the bag and like had everybody at my door knocking and saying, hey, we want you to come to our, like I was a late bloomer in a lot of ways. One, I took the ACT 3 times and didn't get the score needed until the third time. Other part of that is I didn't play my best ball till my senior year. And you know, maybe you were the same way, but a lot of these kids are committing before their senior season, senior summer, like they kind of have it all, neat and tidy before you even get rolling. So I think if I can help somebody who's listening to this episode is like, hey, I don't have all my ducks in a row. I don't have offers before my senior year. I don't know what I want to do past college. Like you're not behind. You're in a good spot, and that's very similar to my story.
Let's go. That's big time. Well, I want to start then going back to where it all started with you in high school. So you being a late bloomer, what was this process like? How did you even end up at Cornell?
Yeah, so I think much like most of these kids that want to go play college football, like you think about the big D1 schools in your area. So I grew up in Southern California, so like USC, UCLA, San Diego State. Like you want to play big time college football. Got my 40 time back, and I was like, yeah, probably not going to be a USC guy, buddy. All right, it's probably going to be a lower level for you. And so going into my senior year, seeing football as a vehicle and having the perspective of what life after football could look like with a degree from a Cornell, from a place like Yale, from any one of those schools in the conference, it got me excited. And the exciting thing, too, was, as you all know, you don't have to sacrifice quality of football for quality of degree. Like there's a lot of other great schools out there with great degrees, but playing lower level football for me just wasn't something that got me juiced or got me excited. And so to bridge the gap here, like figuring out that I was probably going to be a D1 FCS guy, seeing what the Ivy League presented, I started cold calling, cold emailing to all these coaches and camps, and hit the camp circuit hard. And one thing led to another, and Cornell was one of the first schools to offer me, and took a visit, loved it, and ended up there, man. Had a great 4 years. So that's a Spark Notes version, but man, really enjoyed it.
You made a good point about kind of just understanding where you're at as an athlete. I think it's an interesting point. Interested to hear your thoughts on it. Like, I think one thing a lot of athletes struggle with in high school is being able to self-assess themselves as an athlete and know where they're at. So you got a lot of kids who are, maybe an FCS level kid, but because they have aspirations, like you just said, of being like a USC, UCLA guy. I'm from Jersey, so for me it was Rutgers. Both my parents went to Rutgers. My brother went to Rutgers. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to play ball at Rutgers. I went to school 20 minutes away. And then I was chasing after it forever. Meanwhile, I had all these Ivy offers. And as I look back now, I'm like, well, I should have understood and, one, been happy about it. Two, understood maybe I'm just an Ivy recruit. This is who I am. And then three, like, stop chasing maybe the bigger school and focusing on what actually matters in my recruiting to find the best fit for me. What do you think about that?
Dude, that's perfectly said. And to add on to that, like you don't know what you don't know when you're a junior in high school. Because I don't know if this was your story. I wanted to be the guy posting the biggest offer on my social media. Yo, blessed to receive an offer from FBS school. You walk around school, it's like, yo, he's got the D1 offer. That's hype. And it's like, dude, in the moment, 100% can identify with that feeling of like, they're getting offered. Why am I not getting offered? But just if you play that thing out an extra 5 years, like I promise you, having that degree from a Yale, from a Harvard, from a Dartmouth, from a Brown, from a Cornell, from a Columbia, begrudgingly, like it just there is no way to properly estimate like how much more that is the move than having the offer from the FBS school that like is going to be fun in terms of like having your school paid for. It's great to play big time ball. But like, dude, in 6 years, you would much rather have the offer from the Ivy as opposed to the. I don't want to throw any schools, I don't want to throw shade anywhere, but another school that maybe the degree isn't quite as door opening, to put it simply. So that was a big thing for me, bro. I got caught up in comparison and all these things, but like when you can figure out where you're at when you're 25, 26, and the story you'd be able to tell, the handshakes you're able to have, like it's not even a question in my mind. It's not even a conversation.
Sticking with this high school thing just for a bit longer, I'm trying to just get a little bit more information about your time. Where are you at with recruiting? Was Cornell your only Ivy? Were there other Ivies involved? Like, how did that all work out for you?
Yeah, so I finished with 2 Ivy offers. I had Brown and Cornell were my only 2. Talked to all of them, camped with most of them. It's funny, the head coach now at Cornell recruited me at Penn, Dan Swanstrom. He was the OC there, and he was like, hey, man, I'm going to keep it real with you. We got 2 other offers out right now. If something changes, I'll let you know. So that's a plug there for Dan Swanstrom. Good dude. Super transparent dude. But for me, it was a little bit of a round peg in a square hole because my offense in high school was triple option. And so I'm playing that wingback position, which, like, in theory is a running back, but you're not watching me take handoffs. I'm getting pitches. You could also maybe see me in the slot, but like I'm not running the full route tree. So a lot of my recruitment was like, hey, what is this guy's potential? How could we make him fit in our system? What do we think he's going to project to be? Which I don't think was like a negative thing or a positive thing. It just, like, I got most of my calls early on from like the academies because that was the most copy and paste thing to look at, which the academies were awesome too. But, once I got that first Ivy offer, I was like, okay, I think I kind of want to do this as opposed to that. And so I wasn't the fastest guy, wasn't like uber productive because in the triple option offense, like you're splitting up your touches 3 ways or 4 ways if you count the quarterback. So again, a lot of it was like potential, projection, all those things. My 3 offers out of high school were USD, University of San Diego, which was also D1 FCS, Brown and Cornell. And like I said, camped everywhere else, went everywhere else. And once I felt like Cornell was the school that actually like wanted me and had a vision for me when I got there, it became transparent where I wanted to be, man.
There we go. Perspective question for you. Do you think a kid should start small and work their way up the college football ladder if they are potentially Power 4 talent? Or do you think they should start big and just try and hope to get their first offer from like one of those FBS schools early on?
That's a really good question. In regards to like the camp circuit,
and recruiting,
to?
who you're reaching out to, everything. Like when let's say you're just a kid, you're a 6'1", 190 receiver who's talented, but you just really don't know if Duke will call your phone or if you're a Dartmouth kid and you're just trying to figure it out.
I would say, like, follow the favor a little bit there. Like, if I got Dartmouth calling me, I got Columbia calling me, like, yes, let's reach out to Stanford. Let's reach out to those schools that we want to eventually play at if we're not happy with those Ivy offers. But also, like, let's understand too the kind of calls we're getting. Like let's not waste our time chasing a Stanford offer, believing Stanford's going to call, and then signing day comes and goes, and you're like, well, shoot, now I wish I had maybe put more eggs in the Ivy basket because, the school that I thought I was good enough to go to, I'm sitting here on signing day with no hats on the table because I was chasing something that either wasn't realistic or there wasn't, real interest. I think that's the biggest thing for me, Mason, is like understanding what's real interest and what's the letter that you get in your mailbox that has the come to camp invite on there and calling that. Like, dude, I got so many different flyers from like Missouri. Never once talked to a coach there. And that's not knocking Missouri. It's just like I was somehow on their mailing list and it was cool to like walk around school and have the Missouri letter, but Missouri was never actually recruiting me. So if I wasted all this time in my head saying Missouri wants me, let me try to call Missouri and reach out to Missouri, like I would have been on National Signing Day empty-handed and wishing I had spent more energy elsewhere. So I don't really know if I answered your question, but I think simply put, I would reciprocate the favor that I get while also being ambitious with other offers I would like to get as well, if that makes sense.
You put it really well with the understanding what real interest versus fake interest is. A lot of outreach I get is like, I got invited to this camp. A family tell me I got invited to a camp, or an athlete would tell me that. And I'm asking them, who exactly invited you? And they're like, oh, it was a message from the recruiting coordinator. I'm like, hey, just send me a screenshot because I'm interested to see it. And it's, it's the copy and paste flyer and message saying, hey, really want to get you to come to camp this summer. Here are our dates. Check us out. And that's not really a message. That's not genuine interest. That's more broader interest that they send to a wider group. So as you mentioned, genuine interest, understanding who's actually calling you, who's sending you personalized messages. Are you talking to the position coach? Are you talking to the recruiting coordinator? Those things are really important. And then lastly, if you're getting calls from Dartmouth and Penn, it's more likely for you to chase Yale and Cornell versus USC and UCLA.
Yeah, and like I would say, if you show up at an event that's like whether it's a junior day or a camp, and there's not a like warm handshake you're walking into, like take the hint a little bit there. And I'm all here for like betting on yourself, walking on somewhere, go for it, chase your dream. Like I am first team all, go do that. But if you want to be somewhere you're wanted, like let's read the room a little bit here. And it's sick too to walk into those camps and dap up the receiver coach that you've talked to on the phone for a couple, or the guy you've had Facebook messages from. Like that is a very cool thing. And I think it's, again, going back to comparison, it's super easy to get caught up in the, oh, well, my boy has this offer and that offer. If you just fast forward the tape 6 years, which is hard to do at 18 years old, like you would much rather be the guy with the Ivy degree than another degree that maybe isn't quite as valuable, and you had a couple of years of college football to show for it.
You'll find this interesting just because there's some kids that I talked to, and I remember specifically there's a few families, and they had no offers, and they were chasing after some like the lower FBS schools. And the kid's, super talented, very fast track time, really good at his position, but he had no offers. And the only suggestion I gave to them was like, how about you just go to some of these smaller camps, some of the smaller FCS camps. So he went to, an FCS camp with not much, coaches really didn't know him. He sent the message, hey, I'll be there. And they liked the message. And he ended up, now he's like top of the board for this school just because he is really talented. I look at him as like an FBS kid. No one knew him just because of whatever, sometimes you just get under recruited. And then you outshine people at a smaller camp. You have a chance to get recruited versus if like you went to Rutgers, you would just be in a pool of sharks with no opportunity. So that speaks on the whole idea of like chasing opportunities and chasing the place that you can actually get recruited at versus like going, I'm going to go to Nebraska and I have 0 offers, but I run fast.
And that's, I think, a really interesting angle, specifically with your conversation with Cooper Barquet. That was really good stuff. And I thought his thought process was super interesting. Like, dude wants to go play in the NFL, wants to put himself in the position to go be a draft pick whenever his time comes. And now he's been able to do that because he went off at Harvard, now is getting real NIL money at Miami with a little Duke stopgap in there. I think it goes back to, like, what are your long-term goals? Like, is your long-term goal to get school paid for? If it is, great. Like, let's talk about that and figure out a way to do that. Is your goal to go play in the NFL? If it is, let's go somewhere where we know we can ball, where we know we're going to get playing time early, and then past that, we'll see what doors open up, whether it be the NFL draft out of the Ivies, which is extremely possible, whether it be the portal out of the Ivies, which is also a selling point, I think, now with the whole 5 for 5. Like, it's all there for you. So, again, long-term goals. If you want to play pro, let's go where we're going to get touches and looks and be prioritized, and the Ivies makes a lot of sense for that for a lot of these kids.
Tell me your perspective on that. So this is the angle I've been really diving into because I actually find it super interesting. Now with NIL, it's like, you have the kid, let's say generic 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, then, maybe it's different, but generic 3-star, genuine Power 4 interest, but also genuine interest from lower level FBS schools. Let's like even leave out the Ivy League in this situation. What do you think is the path with like NIL and the transfer portal nowadays? Do you think it's beneficial for a kid to just jump to a powerhouse and like, let's say they have an offer, let's say they're an in-state kid and they do have an offer from like an SEC school. But then they also have the offer from like an AAC school, like a Memphis, for example. And it's just a little bit lower football. And you can come in and play tomorrow. And you have an opportunity to start as a freshman and get a lot of tape versus sitting on the bench for 2 years at a Ohio State, at a Georgia, and then maybe having to transfer down. I didn't talk about this a lot. I went to Austin Peay for a few months. as a grad year. I ended up quitting and I started doing all this stuff. But when I was there for 2 months, it was so interesting to see the wide diaspora of students that transferred down from bigger schools. And I was curious to say, I wonder what it would look like if you started at Austin P and then worked backwards and worked your way up. Because if you were an All-American at Austin P, you know what I'm saying?
For sure, for sure. And like not to dodge that question, my first thought is like how physically far along are you? Is like my first thought. Because if you're a kid that has got a big frame and like you need to add 30 pounds of muscle or whatever before you can actually like be someone that contributes, I would almost go somewhere that is going to develop you physically. Like a great example of this, Hunter Norzad was a All-American offensive lineman at Cornell, played center for us, like was a dude. I was a senior when he was a freshman, and like we all knew he was going to be a guy. He graduates, hits the portal, and I remember DMing him and asking him like, "Hey, what are you looking for in your next spot? What's the hope here?" He's like, "I want to go somewhere that has a great strength conditioning program and is going to develop me so my draft stock increases." Because I guess at that point he was hearing, hey, we need X, Y, and Z from size from you. I don't know what the actual conversation was, but that thought process I think is so heady. So to put a finer point on this, like if you are physically good to go and you don't need to gain that weight or, refine a ton technically, I would go where I'm going to play. I would go where I'm going to get tape. I would go where I can have a launch pad to my next spot. If you are one of those, projects, quote unquote, similar to you, I spent a few months at Baylor, dude, and like in 2.5 months, like was stronger than I'd ever been, was faster than I'd ever been, was heavier than I'd ever been, more explosive, like all those things to where I would be very careful to account for that in the long-term plan of your development, because that's a real thing, I believe.
It's a really interesting thing now that I think the portal has opened up, because you see the kids who are at a smaller school transfer into bigger schools and like take dude spots who've been there and are getting paid and are doing well. So I think it's like something that has never been thought before, but now it's a real consideration.
And it's wild too, because these lower level coaches, like they know the deal. They understand, hey, if a kid balls out for us for a year, they're going to get a pretty good bag to go somewhere else. Like we're going to be happy for them. Like I talked to a G6 coordinator 2 weeks ago, and he's like, dude, it's a selling point for us in recruiting. Like I show kids that we bring on visits, hey, this dude played for us for 2 years, and then he got a bag to go to X, Y, and Z FBS school. Like, we can do that for you. You're going to make real money here, but you're going to make even more real money somewhere else if you produce how we think you can produce at a place like this. So I think those schools that, like, adapt, and I think some of the Ivies, too, from coaches that I've talked to are understanding that realm as well and how that can be a recruiting tool. I'm all the way here for it, dude. I think it makes a ton of sense.
All the Ivy coaches are diving into this whole grad transfer thing because it is a selling point. It's a huge selling point. Like, go to an Ivy, get your degree, and grad transfer. But sticking with Ivies, you went to Cornell. There's this lack of understanding about Cornell from a lot of these high school kids who just for some reason just have no interest. Like, oh, it's in Ithaca, New York. So as someone who's went there, I need you to break it down. Like, if you're a kid who's, from a Texas or a California, should you, like, what's the deal with Cornell? Is it like, did the campus suck? Were you depressed? Like, is it nice?
Yeah, there's a lot there, man. I would say the winter part of it is real. And it was probably turned up for me too, because I'm coming from a Southern California to where like December, we got like 70, maybe 65 degrees. Everyone's in sweats. Whereas like, December in the Northeast, much less Ithaca, New York, is like, hey, we're not going outside. The biggest draw for me with Cornell, in terms of the offers that I had, I don't know if you felt this way. I was really apprehensive as to the student body I was going to walk into and how much I would, like, quote unquote fit. Because I think you hear the stories from your boys that went and played at Ivies or what have you, and just talk about how, hey, I was a fish out of water. I had zero commonality with any of the general, student population. Whereas Cornell, like, sneakily 15,000 people. Like, so you get a higher rate of like normal student, I would say, normal person that's a student. So that was a selling point for me. And also like it had a bigger school feel to it, which was attractive. But the brand power of it is something I'm trying to work out, because I see like Dartmouth winning all these conference championships, and I'm like, dude, Hanover, Hampshire, not a big brand. Like, at least we got Andy Bernard in The Office behind us. Like, people know Cornell from The Office, which I think helps a little bit in the visibility. But But no, man, it was a good experience. I studied hotel administration there, which clearly I'm not doing anything in hotels currently, but like it was just a flexible, powerful degree in terms of the network, which was cool to me. Um, so yeah, man, that's like, I think like the best way to put it. Winters are for sure real, the isolation for sure real, but like great place to be from when it's all said and done. And I have a lot of confidence in the dude now running the show up there and Coach Swanstrom. So yeah, I mean, if you wanna go be at a bigger school and have a bigger school feel to it, and be good for some office jokes, Cornell's your spot, man.
So my girlfriend was at Cornell, so I visited there a lot. I spent a lot of time
No
on
kidding.
campus.
Okay.
Yeah, she graduated when I graduated from Yale. So like I was always between Yale, Cornell, making the drive, and I personally over time began to fall in love with it, just because it was so different than I grew up in Princeton, so I was 20 minutes from Princeton. I was at Yale, and now I'm in Philly, so I'm over by Penn. And I'm like, there's just something different about Cornell that it offers. And like, yes, the negatives are real. Being in Ithaca is real. I'm never going to downplay that to anybody. But I think there's something really cool about Cornell and Dartmouth specifically, because you're not in a big city, and like because you're isolated, it forces you to dive into community more. It forces you to kind of like get involved in that more. And as not being a student is interesting, but being there, I've also done YouTube videos interviewing the students and stuff. So like it's been cool to be there and like see the differences between the Yale student body and then like the Cornell student body, for example.
I feel like there's just so much diversity there in terms of interest, in terms of people. Like there's whatever you want to get into. I feel like Cornell has a pretty wide net for you to cast. Whereas again, not to knock Brown, I was grateful to get an offer from Brown, but I remember being on my Brown visit and being like, man, this is just a very small student body. I don't know how well I fit in here, quote unquote, which, I mean, if you're an athlete going to a school like that, you're already sort of not fitting in because you got in with some help. But I just felt like there was much more of a blank canvas at a place like Cornell to, again, get involved, meet different people with different interests. So that was a big selling point for me too. And I mean, I think you mentioned it too on your page. Homecoming, very cool. Homecoming,
Yeah.
very cool crowd.
Yep.
Good deal.
Yep.
Good vibes.
I want to talk about the more generic Ivy League for a quick second to hear your opinion on this. So a lot of people more recently have begun to, have this school of thought that the value of Ivy League education and education in general has begun to like sink and is no longer as valuable. And I don't agree with that. Obviously, that's why I make my content. But I'm curious what you think about that, and then also in the lens of, the value of going to a school like that. For me, it was not the education in the classroom. For me, it was the network, the people you're around, and the type of thinking that it allows you to do when you're surrounded by people who have higher aspirations, super ambitious, and are all like in this community. What did being at an Ivy League do for you mentally? How do you think it kind of shaped you?
I think it shapes you in the sense that, I don't know if you felt this way, I left Cornell being like, okay, that was really hard academically. Like I graduated by the hair of my chinny chin chin, dude. Like if I can do that, the next thing shouldn't be as hard as this, whether it be living in Ithaca, whether it be graduating from the #1 hotel program in the world. Like, okay, the next thing can't be as hard as this. Like I'm good for whatever happens next, while also playing a sport and all that. The other part of that in terms of like shaping, to go back on the idea of like how valuable an education is, in what I do in sports media, I draw back on absolutely zero of my technical quote unquote like education from the hotel school. But in terms of what I just said, warm handshakes, being able to network, being able to meet people, the network at a Ivy is just so vast, because not only do you have access to your current alumni network of where you went to school, but like, you probably feel the same way. If you see a DM from like a Dartmouth grad or a Brown grad, you're like, he didn't go to Yale, but like we grew up in a similar ecosystem. Like I want to at least like just hear what he has to say. So like even just like having access to that network, dude, I think it's enormously valuable. Can't put a price on it.
The last thing's important. The Ivy network in general, it expands bigger than just your school, and it's in a way like I go on runs in the morning in Philly, and I'm running on the street. And if I see somebody wearing any Ivy, it's like automatic. It's like we make the eye contact and it's like, hey, like good morning. You know what I mean? Just like, and it's just like there's just like for some reason that camaraderie that comes with it, and I think it's different than other conferences, and there's a lot of value there. talk now post Cornell. So you've navigated a career in sports media. I think this is something that, specifically from my experience in college, it's not something that I learned a lot about in school. The idea of being on socials, doing anything in sports media. How did you figure out this was a genuine interest for you, and how did you get started in sports media?
So I, similar to you, had no technical training in sports media. I was a communication major for my first year and a half at Cornell, then transferred into the hotel school because I was like, I don't think this communication degree is going to transfer over to what I would like it to be in terms of digital media. Was super fortunate to when I got out of school, digital media was sort of going up and to the right while I'm trying to figure out how to get into sports media, because this, it used to be, hey, go work a job at a local news station for 2 to 3 years in Beaumont, Texas, and then from there, maybe you'll get an offer to go somewhere in Dallas, Texas, and then from Dallas, maybe you go to New York, maybe from New York, someone picks you up. Whereas with digital media, the beauty of where we are right now is if you got an iPhone and a couple of things to say and a Twitter account, you can get some momentum and some motion if you're aggressive and strategic about it. So all that's to say, when I finished playing football, started a YouTube channel under a local outlet in Waco, Texas, where I was at the time, and just started posting content there, started being aggressive on social media and getting stuff out there, and was fortunate to where the right people at On3 saw the right clips and offered us a job. But in terms of the learning of it all, it really was a matter of doing it enough and watching myself back and cringing and saying, okay, I don't like how that came across. Let me try something else. Experimenting with different types of content and how that would work. And then also seeing how social media can feed the other. So, again, I don't know if that answers your question, but it really was a trial and error, look in the mirror, which I think is kind of where we're at in social media. The biggest people in our space, in my opinion, your Pat McAfee's, none of them went to broadcast journalism programs, and they're the most authentic voices out there.
How did you even know sports media was something for you? And you were at you said you do communications, hotel school. When was the epiphany of I want to try sports media? And then secondly, you mentioned your start in sports media was by starting a YouTube channel. How did that thought come about? Because I started a YouTube channel. When I first started, I was like, it's kind of daunting. What does it mean to post videos? How did all that? Break that down for me.
For sure. So to answer the first part of that, I think the epiphany for me was, dude, going even back to grade school. Do you ever watch Sports Nation?
Yes.
With Michelle Beadle, Colin Cowherd? Dude, that was it to me. And I was like, this is fun. This is cool. They talk about sports for their job. That's sick. And so the goal was always play football as long as possible. Do that until they take it away. But once they do take it away, you get to talk about sports for your job. How do I do that? And I wasn't sure what that looked like, because the standard workforce, the way that works, obviously, as you know, is you apply for a job, you do a couple rounds of interviews, you get offered a job. For sports media, it's do you know somebody? Do you have a following? Do you have an in? Do you have an audition process? How does that work? And so it was all very just obscure. So I just started doing the job that I wanted to do for free, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, it was really great. There's a company called Sikkim 365 in Waco, Texas, who had a studio and had a producer that worked there. And they were like, hey, if you want to use our studio, we'll pay you a couple $100 a month. Whenever you have time, go shoot a couple videos. We'll put it on the channel, and we'll see where that goes.
How'd you get in touch with them?
It's funny. The SID at Baylor, during our media days, when we were waiting in line to get the headshots taken, he's like, hey, what do you want to do when football's done? This whole time not knowing my football career is about to be done in a couple of weeks. I was like, man, I love to do media. Don't know what that looks like. This is all again, it's podcast becoming a real thing. And so when I retired, he had sent my name over to the guy who runs Sikkim 365. And he's like, hey, heard you want to do media. Why don't you come by and give it a try? And so I was super fortunate. I hate using the word lucky because I think it just is I don't know. It's not something you can replicate, so it's not applicable to somebody's story. It's oh, you got. But I was fortunate in the sense that person sent my name over to that other person that gave me a microphone to be bad at it for a while until we eventually were able to to garner a following.
Huge. This is post Cornell and post Baylor. I'm assuming
Yeah.
a lot of kids around you were doing some pretty cool things, and you were the guy first out, making no money, doing something for free.
Sure.
How did you stick with that? Because that's a mental drain as well, to say I'm going to go into this and not pursue other opportunities.
So I also had an 8 to 5 job in recruiting for a home care company that I was doing, like 8 to 5, 5 days a week, pays the bills, awesome. And dude, the biggest blessing in all of it is like I had kind of become resigned to the fact of how long it was or wasn't going to take. Like I had resigned to the fact, hey, I'm building this YouTube channel. I really like this. I really like that we're seeing some growth. I enjoy doing this a number of days a week. Like I want this to be the full-time hustle, and I'm going to throw all that I have at this within, my capacity of my week. But like I truly love this. I love getting better at this, and whenever it happens or doesn't happen, like so be it. Which is kind of a counterintuitive way to look at it, because all we hear via social media or via, our background of athletes is grind, go hard, 25-8, whatever. But when you can kind of just like release control a little bit and say, I'm cool with however this goes, I'm doing this because I love it, that was a super freeing thing. And funny enough, like when it kind of all came together and when On3 ended up calling and moved to Nashville to do what we're doing now.
How long after you started did it take for you to get the On3 call and get started here?
So the YouTube channel I had done for maybe a year and a half, but I had done like a radio show with Sikkim that had like started and stopped. I had done local news for like 3 months and realized like that wasn't for me. I wasn't going to want to be doing that. Also, that's like during COVID, so like the worst possible time to be doing local news when all you're talking about is the pandemic and the end of the world is just like a thing in itself. But yeah, right around a year and a half, I think we had built it to like 8,000 subs or something like that. But I would say like within that, like I was super aggressive of getting our content to places where people would see it. And like what I mean by that is I was hitting the message boards with a link to the video we did on Florida. If it was, I was taking that to a Florida message board and saying, hey, here's this I did, let me know what y'all think. And I don't know if that actually moved the needle or not, but I do think it got me closer to the view of people that make decisions at On3 and helped us, get momentum here to where we're doing this now full time.
How much were you posting on that channel? Were you posting like multiple times a week? Was this an everyday thing?
Yeah, my goal was to get 5 videos a week. So I'd go in on Tuesday and do 2. And I'd go in on Wednesday and do like some variation of 2 sessions, 5 videos total. But when I say videos, like right around 8 minutes, try to script out a certain number of points to make within those 8 minutes. And again, I don't know if there was ever a point where we like got quote unquote good at it, but I knew I enjoyed it, and so I wanted to keep sharpening my sword at it and see improvement there. But yeah, right around 5 a week. I was just like, if I can be consistent, that's the biggest thing is, if you can be consistent, you're going to differentiate from 90% of the rest of the population that wants to do what you do.
When you started posting this consistently and you started making, like, in a way, I'm making my videos and sometimes I'm sitting here with the camera, I'm just like banging my head against the wall. I'm like, here I go again, like same rendition. Was there a point where you were like, all right, I feel like I'm forcing it too much? Or was it always just like, did you have enough, I guess, mental fortitude from the start to say, I'm just going to be myself on camera and just talk and not try to overscript? And if things go well, they don't. If they do, I'll get better over time. How are you thinking about it mentally?
I think being able to be detached from the result was the biggest thing for me, which again sounds counterintuitive. It sounds like, oh, this guy just mailed it in, whatever. But I remember vividly driving back to work for my lunch break after shooting a couple of videos and just being like, I don't know, stumbled over my words. I don't know if that made sense. I don't know if that's going to resonate. Maybe I've made a video like that before. And on my drive back, I was like, dude, it's okay. I'm going to go back and do it again tomorrow. And like I showed up, which is the biggest value of it all. Like I'm going to grow the channel more than if I had just decided, I'm not feeling it today. I got to get lunch. There's not enough margin here. Like just doing it and getting a shot up. One, you never know what's going to happen, who sees that and how it catches. And like maybe that's the video that I shot that the right person saw and made a difference. But if nothing else, like got another rep. Like I showed up at practice. Whether I know coaches say you get better or worse at practice. Like I don't know if I subscribe to that. I think just showing up and doing it is the value in itself. So I think that was it, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, there's definitely times still where I'm like, I don't know how good that show was. but we did it, and the people that expect an episode on Tuesday and Thursday are going to get it, and we'll learn from it and do another show by the grace of God the next Tuesday and Thursday. So that just like detaching from the present moment, I think has just been so huge and something I still try and strive for.
Are you or are you not an analytics dude when it comes to this type of stuff you do? Are you really diving into what pieces are doing well? Or are you really saying, this is something that I know is valuable to talk about. I'm really interested in it. And if it does well or it doesn't do it, I'm going to do it.
It's a good blend of both. When there's stuff to talk about, we got to hit on it. But when we're in the month of June, there's a little bit of freedom to say, I kind of think that, I don't know, Oklahoma's offensive line is interesting. Maybe nobody else does, but I do. Let's give it a shot. Well, the whole while knowing that's one of 5 shots you're getting up today, one of 4 shots you're getting, whatever it is. Like it's a part of the quiver of arrows, but it may not be everything. So, but to answer that other part of the question, like you absolutely look at the numbers and say, okay, am I wasting my time talking about this? Because you don't want to do total just, you don't want to totally be detached from what your audience is telling you they like, So it is a blend, but I do think the more you can make it authentic to you, I do think people care. I do think people notice how much you care or don't care about a topic when you speak about it. And I had someone else that I look up to doing YouTube. His name is Connor Sullivan. He told me this. He's like, if you are genuinely excited about something, whether it's travel, college football, Ivy League, whatever it is, like people can tell and they will be excited because you're excited in terms of how you talk about something. So that always stuck to me, yeah.
What do you think about big picture? Obviously you spend your whole time and career doing this. What do you think about the current state of college football in 2026?
Dude, it's crazy. It's crazy. The biggest thing is I just want us to get to where we're going to be for the next decade or so and then go from there. Because there's so much now that's just how many is right for the playoff? What's the portal look like? How many times can you transfer? Is there a cap with like there's so much just this and nobody in charge, which transparently for us it's great. Like anytime there's a big story in college football about the way the sport's going to look, like it helps us on the media side. But as somebody who actually just like enjoys the sport holistically, I'm ready for us to just find our new level, our new normal and go from there. It does feel like we're going to expand the playoff again, which I'm not a fan of. It does feel like we're moving towards 2 power conferences in the Big Ten and the SEC, which it is what it is. Not the biggest fan of that either. But yeah, it's just such a state of flux to answer your question. It's just so much touch and go. I'm ready for us to just get our feet underneath us here a little bit, And
then to reverse the question as an athlete, like in a way, like if you can reverse engineer it, you're an athlete again in 2026 and you're about to enter this college football universe. How are you thinking about this as an athlete? Even if, let's say, you can take it from different approaches. You can take it from like the very talented approach. You could take it from like the 3-star approach that we talked about before.
I think looking back on my own recruitment, dude, I would have tried to graduate early from an Ivy, or at least been cognizant of what my red shirt was. Like, because I think the degree still, knowing what I know now, it's so valuable. But if you can parlay that into a big time football experience that maybe you dreamed of growing up, like, you can get best of both worlds. So like for my own recruitment, I would say that. And then in terms of just the average college athlete in general, Will Compton talks about this being an NFL player. Like your handshakes will never be warmer than when you're actually playing the sport that you play. Like, so maximize your opportunities as an athlete currently. Like don't wait to be a couple of years out. Yeah, I played some ball at Bucknell. Yeah, I played at whatever. Like go put into motion the plan that you want to have in 5 years right now, because right now is where you are the hottest commodity, if you will.
The last question I'll ask you is we covered it in a few different lenses now, but let's say, for current Ivy League athletes specifically, as a guy who's been there and done it, if there's something you think that you can provide value to them in terms of finding their interest and chasing it. Because one thing about your story I find that is most unique is that, a lot of my peers as well, I see right now doing all the things, investment banking, lawyers, consulting, and those are all great things. I'm very happy for all of them. My girlfriend's in law school. She's about to be going big time next year. And I just didn't want that for myself, but I was able to recognize it and accept it. I feel like a lot of kids are too scared to. So for you as somebody who's done it and succeeded, what can you say to that? I'll leave it there. What would you say to that?
It's a great question, man. And it's a big question. I want to make sure I answer it articulately for you. I think my first thought is don't paralyze yourself by comparing yourself to everyone else. Because I did a lot of that early on. I was like, my roommate's making 90 grand as an engineer out of school. My other roommate's about to go make whatever out of school, also with a sick degree. And like, I'm sitting here saying, I think I want to do grad school. I want to try to play football. So like, don't like run your race. Understand that where you are now is not where you're going to be in 5 years. And the same can be said for your peers. And maybe you will or won't keep up with those peers. Like it's a whole thing to get caught up in. Complete trap. Other thing I would say is like, make time, as corny as it is, make time to ask yourself what you're genuinely interested in. And if you're a kid coming from an Ivy League school, you are already one of the 1%ers. If you are at an Ivy, if you're playing, like you've already hit the lotto. Like swing big. Like don't limit yourself in regards to what people tell you is accomplishable or what you think is doable. Like somebody has to do the job that you want to do. Like somebody is going to do it. It might as well be you. And so the more you can turn down those voices internally and externally of, well, be realistic. Like, dude, you want to do YouTube and talk football? Like you want to do YouTube and help Ivy? Like how are you going to do that, bro? It's not realistic. There's no money in that. Like just block all that out. Like you got to be able to see it for yourself and believe it and understand the people that have a small vision are going to try to put that vision on you and make you see through the straw. Like as much as you can, block that out and understand you're holding a freaking stick of dynamite with the Ivy League degree and having played a sport. Like it is a powerful thing, man. So I would say swing big, knock on a lot of doors, and don't let people steal your passion or your vision.
That's big time. I like that. That was a great answer. That's a great way to wrap this thing up. So I really appreciate you coming on today. I'm happy that I've got a chance to meet you through this video. One of my favorite part of making content is being able to meet cool people like you, because like this stuff inspires me as a new creator to keep going, see people like you do it. So I really appreciate you coming on the show today.
Dude, that means a lot. Genuinely, you are doing something that is super unique and cool and needed in this space. Like, dude, keep going. I don't know if you're getting a lot of people in your ear telling you not to do it or what, but like, bro, what you're doing is working. Keep crushing, and it's inspiring to see, man. So whatever I can do, man, on my end, you say the word, and I'm happy to assist however. But this is awesome.
Well, for the listeners who are still here, thank you for listening. Subscribe to Ivy Athlete, and we'll see you next time.